Mavericks trade back into the first round for another first-round pick. That's what one draft expert is saying that could happen on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm going to get a city like that.
Dogs, all of us, all five.
You are Locked On Mavs.
Great, Dusty.
Your daily Dallas Mavericks podcast.
No one's dying.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Still can't leave me alone.
Your team every day.
Gotta be born with it, dogged up.
You are Locked On to Dallas Mavericks. My name is Isaac. I'm one of your co-hosts covering the Mavs for the last 10 years alongside my good friend, Nick Bangstead. And guys, we are so close. We're so close to the NBA draft. It's coming up. It's going to be here before we know it. Cooper Flagg visiting on Tuesday of this week. And then the next week, it is time to make Cooper Flagg a Dallas resident. Probably not happening that fast, but he should be wearing a Mavs hat at that point. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen of the day. It's draft season, so you're already listening to Locked On NBA Big Board. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. All right, let's talk about NBA draft. Give us a little bit of break here talking about the Jason Kidd saga. A little bit of break of talking on Cooper Flagg every day, and a little bit of break of any trade rumors and all the stuff as we wait for a Kevin Durant trade, hopefully before the draft. NBA Finals is the biggest storyline right now, and rightfully so, as OKC is up, and they could end this thing on Thursday night. But I want to talk about something that Rafael Barlow, one of the best NBA draft people in the entire business. He has a Substack that is a must listen. His podcast is a must listen, Locked On NBA Big Board, but his Substack is something I've been subscribed to for a while now. And you gotta be reading all the stuff. And he's so plugged in with people too that he has. It's not just about prospects and learning about players and how they fit in the NBA. But it's also some rumors and stuff of like what agents are telling him, what he's hearing from different teams and stuff. And I love Rafael's work because he actually like travels the world and meets people and sees different players in person and all these things. So, but the other day on his podcast, and actually the episode before this one, he was on with Nick talking about the same kind of topic of trade back in options. I couldn't make that one, so I was like, you know what, you can't have enough episodes this week, right? And so here you go. Here's another episode talking about it. But he said that, hey, he's heard that the Mavs are trying to get back into the first round, to trade back into the first round, to pick up another first-round draft pick. And that gets me excited because I love the draft. So then we can actually talk about some other prospects too, because we get the best one in the business in Cooper Flagg. Shout out to the New Balance gear that Cooper Flagg dropped. I need a lot more of you guys to listen to this podcast for me to be able to afford a New Balance Cooper Flagg t-shirt for $75 a shirt that just says Flag Day. It looks cool. I think the sweatshirt is like $155. So we need more ads. New Balance, sponsor us so that we can afford these shirts that Cooper's putting out. But so it just made me start thinking of like, hey, Rafael says he's heard the Mavericks are trying to trade back into the first round to get another first round draft pick. And he specifically mentioned a point guard. And we've looked at this point guard rotation so many times for the Mavs that this is the area that they're going to try to address this offseason with Kyrie's injury, probably pushing him to come back around January, maybe 1st of February, something like that. So they need another guard. They need another creator, playmaker out there. Right now, it's pretty much just Brandon Williams, and I like Brandon Williams, but I think we can all agree it's probably not going to be just him. There's that mutual interest in Dante Exum. Do they try to get a minimum type of guy like a Brogdon or a Chris Paul? Or do they try to trade somebody like an Omax or a Gafford or PJ or somebody to go get a better option like a Kobe White? There's a bunch of different options out there, but if they try to get back into the first round, what are they trying to do and how could they do it? So I think if they do make a trade like this, I think it would be one of two routes, right? I think it is, we know where Dallas sits with getting the first pick in the lottery and getting Cooper Flagg. Now you're locked into another double-digit salary that now pushes you closer to the second apron and all of this stuff. So they need to shed money. We've talked about this before. You can also go follow Mavs CBA Mavs. Now it's confusing me on what the order of is in that, but just search that in Twitter or whatever. You'll find his stuff. He'll explain that of how much they're over. So they got to shed money anyway. So do they look at trying to do this and saying, all right, this is our way of shedding money. Will you take X player and then we'll take, for a first round pick, and then bam, like we could use the first round pick on a guard or whoever it is. So you're saving money, adding another guard prospect to the equation there. Or I think another route they could look at it is saying, this is hard for me to say, but if they look at it and say, hey, Omax is just still not ready, and we just need that spot on the roster to be shifted to a different type of position. So if they look at it and they canvas different teams in the second half, or the second half of the first round, and say, hey, would you rather have Omax instead of adding one of these first round draft picks? Then it could be like a swap like that, right? Like, hey, Dallas hops up and says, hey, they trade Omax to the Nets, for one of their first round picks. And then you just use that first round pick. And it's kind of like similar type of salaries, but just like you're kind of resetting that rookie contract in a way. If you kind of get what I'm saying there, I'm probably being a little confusing there. But I also think if they jump up and get another first round draft pick, I think it's for a player that they want to be in the rotation. I don't think it's like a draft and stash. I don't think it's just like a purely like, I think they would do it to go and get an actual, like a person that it's not just like, hey, we'll just take the pick and figure it out. I think it's more of they're going to go targeting somebody with that pick of somebody they think can be in the rotation. And what are the teams that I'm looking at for this type of an equation? There's three teams I'm looking at. One, you have OKC. OKC is probably about to win the NBA championship. They have a stacked, loaded roster. Are they really going to add multiple rookies to this team again? They could. They have Topic that hasn't even played this year because of injury. He's going to be coming back. Like, they're not going to add three players. So do they try to consolidate? Do they try to push the ball further down the court of saying, hey, they had the 24th pick in the draft? Do they look at that and say, hey, can anybody take this and just give us a protected future first, something like that, and you just kind of swap years? I could see Dallas trying to do something like that. But the only thing with that is I don't think Dallas is trying to just like buy in, and like they need to shed money. So I think some salary needs to go out for Dallas. I'm also looking at the Hawks pick at 22 because the Hawks have a trade exception. If they're trying to, I don't know what direction they're going. So it's kind of hard to figure that one out of like, could they use a Daniel Gafford? They have a Kongwu. They're probably going to like let Capella go somewhere else, but I don't know, but I'm still looking at that pick at 22. But the big one is Brooklyn's picks. Besides those at the very top, you have Brooklyn has picked 19, 26, and 27. Are they going to add 4 first round picks to this? They could. They probably need to because they don't have a good roster at all. But is this a situation they have all this cap space that Dallas calls and tries to do a couple things here, tries to shed money, and also gets back into the first round to target another guard out there? There's somebody I'm looking at, whether it's 19, 26, 27, one of those picks through there, that could be a prime Omax type of team of saying, hey, for them, they're like, maybe they've liked Omax, they liked him in his draft, and they're like, hey, we'll take the swing on him. We have 3 other firsts coming in, rookies coming in. We'll take the swing on Omax. You can have pick 26 or 27 or 19, whatever it is. So obviously the 19th pick, I think could be a good player because I think some of these players could be dropping. And regarding that, let's take a quick break because I have 2 players that I think are going to drop. And I could see Dallas, if they do this type of trade, this is the type of player. This is the guy. These are the 2 guys that I could see them targeting. But coming up real quick. This podcast is brought to you by FanDuel. Guys, the finals is coming up Thursday night. Could be the end of it all. So if you like betting on the NBA, and having fun with that, then you have possibly one game left on Thursday night. It's in full swing. Here's the cool thing about FanDuel is it's not just money line stuff before the game and leading up to tip off. There's stuff that you can do all throughout the game. There's player props. Man, there's just so many different things you could do during the game. And which players are showing up in the biggest moments. SGA's having some big moments here in the finals. And you could track different trends. There's live prop bets, like I said, mid-game. It's just, there's a lot of cool things you can do during the game. And how could a $200 bonus in bets add to the excitement if your first $5 bet hits? Because this is the thing you could be looking at. New to FanDuel. If you've never signed up for FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA.
Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right, here we go. Let's talk about some prospects. So here's the thing with the draft that is really fun this time of the year is there's so many people that talk about different prospects that are rising up the boards. And it's like, dude, I can't see, depending on who you talk to, I can't see this prospect getting out. They're getting top 8 buzz. They're getting top 10 buzz. It'd be shocking to people around the league if they are out of the lottery. You can only have 14 players in the lottery, all right? So at some point, you hardly ever see news of this player is dropping. So if different players like Nolan Essingay or Murray Boyles or Cedric Coward or Carter Bryant, even like Sorber or Behringer, like these guys are creeping up in some of these mock drafts and some of these podcasts and stuff. They're like, hey, this is a top 20 guy. I mean, some of these guys like a Carter Bryant, he could be going, top 10. Like it would be crazy, or a lottery. It'd be crazy, like that type of jump, because he wasn't there months ago, and now he's kind of like rising up the boards. But if you have multiple players like that rising up the boards, then somebody's got to fall back. And this is where 2 guys I think would be falling back. One is Nolan Traore. So Traore is obviously the French kid that you go back a year ago, and there's buzz about him being like top 5 guy. And I started reading stuff and watching around that time because I was getting excited for the French national team, and I was like, dude, at some point they're gonna have him and Essengay with Wemby and Gobert and these guys, and it's just like France's national team is just going to keep getting better because they have these young guys that are coming up. And then he has this like up and down season, really streaky type of season. But then he finishes these like past few weeks, 2 months of the season, super strong. And he shoots at like 43. I wrote down 43% from 3 over his last 10 games, plays some of his best basketball. He's 6'5". He is a floor general type of guy. And that's the type of guy of like highly touted pick, and then bam, he's like falling down some boards. I don't see hardly anybody having him in the top 10 right now. Would it shock you if he fell out of the lottery, and then you're looking at like late teens at that point? That's the type of player that if you traded in with that Brooklyn pick at pick 19 to take a Traore and say, hey, come learn under Kyrie Irving and come off the bench and stuff and learn how to be this like floor general type of guy. Now, he's not the, hey, come in and get buckets type of dude. I mean, he can. He's really, really shifty and quick first step, but it's not like I hate when people say like it's not Westbrook athleticism. No one's Westbrook athleticism. But he would be a pick that you try to like capitalize on him falling. And in the same conversation with this is somebody that before Dallas won the lottery and they were sitting there at like the 11th best odds, and we were already talking about who the players around that frame of the draft, or that part of the draft. And it's like, well, who's some guards? Like, we know Dallas needs some guards, some backcourt. We were talking Jeremiah Fears at that point. Now I don't think there's any way he goes outside of the top 10. But a name that some people talked about then that has since lost some steam, at least from what I've gathered, read, talked to, and I think the combine didn't help him out because he came in a lot shorter, a lot smaller, and that was Jase Richardson. Jase Richardson, Michigan State guy. He's obviously the son of Jason Richardson, a longtime NBA player. Man, that dude could dunk the basketball. He was so much fun. that Golden State like dunk contest. Had a poster of that on my wall growing up. Yeah, he was just so much fun. Anyway, he didn't get his dad's like height or athleticism, right? Because Jase Richardson at the combine measured at 6 foot, which is pretty small, right? Like, I mean, and he's kind of like a combo type of guard, so you can obviously play point guard, but he kind of plays like off ball and stuff too. But he's tiny. He has a 6'6" wingspan, so at least he's not a square. But outside of that, outside of the size that you know is going to get, he's going to get taken advantage of in that. You look at all the offensive stuff, and it's pretty dang good. Like, I mean, this dude shot 41% from 3, 45% catch and shoot shots. You look at him finishing at the rim, and you don't want to compare anybody to Kyrie because anybody, like no one is Kyrie Irving, but you get the little nod whenever you find players that are under 6'2" that can finish really well in the paint. And I'm like, oh man, like he can finish so well in the paint. Like some of his, it's like high 60% whenever you come in and whenever you look at his finishing in the paint numbers. And he's so small, so he's so crafty on the basket. And I would love for him to like learn under Kyrie Irving and stuff. Yeah, just that part of his game and make that even better. He's the type of guy that if you got him in the late teens, or middle of the first round or early 20s. Like, I don't think he falls into the 20s, but I could see him fall into the late teens because of his size. I could see teams looking at it and saying, dang, he's just so small. Like, he's crafty. He can get some points and get buckets, but he's just so small. Like, I don't know like what position he's going to play. He's too small for 2-guard. And I could just see teams, it feels like at times teams lean to take the swings on players, right? An international prospect that is super tall and lanky, or a big that's rising up the range. You look at a guy like Behringer right now, and it feels like, I mean, he's just like the horse in the Kentucky Derby that was like later in the pack, and now he just keeps on coming up to where now he's getting like late lottery buzz for some people. So if some of those guys move up, I could see a Jase Richardson moving back, and then some team's going to pounce on him, and he's going to be a great pick for somebody like early 20s or late teens. So that's one of my predictions is I think Jase Richardson falls. I think Traore falls. And you're looking at some of one or two, if not both of them, available towards the end of the teens there, like 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, somewhere through there. I could see both of those guys being available and dropping, and it could surprise some people. And those are the type of guys that I think would be great in Dallas. Like, I think if you could pounce on that and pounce on a first round draft pick and pull in one of those guards too, and then go out and add another guard, like a more experienced guard, as a minimum guy or something. And then you walk into that and you're like, all right, cool. In this season, we have Brandon Williams, we have Jase Richardson, we have Malcolm Brogdon. I'm just throwing out like a minimum contract guy until Kyrie comes back. But I get his size. And I will say this. I know Raphael and Nick talked about him, Yegor Dimon. I love Dimon. Dimon's one of my guys in this draft. And I just don't see a world in which he's going to like last even in the late lottery. Like, I think he goes in like top 12. If I was a team in the top 10, I would take Dimon in the top 10. I just love what he does at his size at the point guard spot, the vision he has, some of his passing stuff and court vision, and how he can set other players up. I think is going to be incredible in the NBA. And I know Josh Giddey is a comp for him for a lot of people, but just imagine Dimon in a situation with like all the pieces in Toronto, or some, I don't know, even New Orleans type of thing. I would be perfectly fine taking him in the top 10. But if there's a situation, he is a Bill Duffy client. We've talked about that before. Bill Duffy, Luka Doncic's agent. So either way, Bill Duffy's client, Luka, did end up in LA. So anyway, if you could get Yegor Dimon and you're like, hey, I have Dimon and Cooper Flagg coming out of this draft, let's go. I mean, that would be a lot of fun. So I like Dimon a lot. I just don't think it's going to be possible for Dallas at that point. All right. I have a couple more prospects towards the end of the first round to where if they got one of those picks, the 26th, 27th, OKC's 24th, A couple players down through there that I would say, hey, this is the player you go out and draft, including Walter Clayton Jr. Let's talk about him for a sec.
Shut it down! Let's go home! Shut it down! Let's go home!
All right. Let's do this. Let's talk about Walter Clayton. So if the Mavs are sitting there and they trade back in, I think there's going to be so much movement with draft picks moving around. The NIL stuff is fascinating to me. If we're going to talk about NBA ratings and who's watching what, then I need all the rating data coming out of that second night of the draft in the second round. Because remember, the NBA is going to a 2-night draft this year, Wednesday night and Thursday night. So mark that on your calendars. Make sure you understand that the Cooper Flagg thing is going to be happening on Wednesday night. Thursday night is just the second round, televised and all this stuff. So much of the second round has just been picked through by colleges because these NIL deals are much better money than what they're going to be getting in the NBA. So many people are going back to school. Anyway, I just feel like that second night's going to be boring, but there could be a lot of movement and stuff with the second round and all that stuff. But you look at the end of the first round, and if Dallas trades back in and gets a pick in the 20s, and they go for a point guard, like Raphael said at the very beginning, I was talking about how the Mavs have interest in trying to move back in the first round for possible point guard. And guys, I would be really happy with Walter Clayton Jr. And it's not just hey, it's recency bias and, Florida wins the title. He's the best player on that team. And then bam, like you just want it because of that. One, I don't want to be burned by it again. I was burned on Jalen Brunson. I liked him at Villanova. They beat Carolina in a championship game. Not salty about that. He wins a couple titles. It's always cool seeing like a winner, and it's like hard to bet against a winner, a guy who plays like Brunson does. But like you couldn't convince me like Brunson's going to be what he is now at that size. No athletic, like no playing above the rim, like all this stuff. I was just like, dude, he's gonna be a great backup in the league. I'm not going to make that mistake anymore when it comes to game-winning type of point guards like a Jalen Brunson, like a Walter Clayton Jr. He is an incredible shooter. So he's 6'2". He's 22 years old. He goes on this incredible run at Florida, helps them win the national title. Just some of the shot making. He's so confident with the shot making, coming off screens, creating his own shot. I was reading something about him, and they described him shooting like he can shoot the ball in the phone booth, basically meaning like it doesn't matter how much space he has, he can get a shot off. This is a weird thing, but I love how far off the ground he gets with his jump shots and threes and stuff. He's just a bucket getter, and he's a winner, and he's confident, and he has the clutch gene. He can play in the clutch, and he's the type of guy coming off the run he just had, obviously the age too, being 22, he's a little bit older. He's a guy that I think you could bring into the mix on day one and say like, hey, can you help like Walter Clayton Jr., Brandon Williams, and a minimum contract guy. And I'm not saying he's like starter worthy or anything like that. I'm a believer in Walter Clayton being a pro in the league. And I think, he would be fun in Dallas. And I think he fits the mold of like a Nico type of guy. Can't you see Nico Harrison right now, like just bragging on him winning a title? He's a winner. Jason Kidd saying he's a basketball player, like just all the cliche names and stuff in that. So I would love Walter Clayton Jr. if they traded and got a pick in the 20s. And that'd be cool. Another guy that I think is probably going to go, he's going to go before Walter Clayton Jr. and maybe in the teens that could surprise some people, but Rasheer Fleming from St. Joseph's. I love this guy. He's been one of the guys that I've been captured by. I keep on going back to him and looking at like more tape and stuff on him, more clips and stuff. He's 6'8" with a 7'5" wingspan. He's 21. He's a 3-and-D guy. 39% from three. He's obviously not a point guard, so it doesn't fit this like exact rumor. But if Dallas traded back in, I'm always in the camp of you can never have enough wing guys like this size. I'm a believer in his shot. It was a little inconsistent early in his collegiate career, but this last year, 39% from three. I just love his size and what he can do. He is the typical like 3-and-D guy. Like, hey, bro, don't dribble. All right, just play defense 100 miles an hour and hit threes. And yeah, I just love those type of guys. So I'm a believer in Rasheer Fleming. So he's cool. And obviously, I've been hyping up this dude. It's one of my favorite dudes in the draft. Drake Powell, North Carolina. I think he's the best on-ball perimeter defender in this draft. I've watched a lot of him play, watched a lot of basketball from him over this past year, but I loved his defense then. He's a point of attack guy. And he's been getting some buzz, like rolling up some first round, some drafts and stuff. So I'm happy to see the buzz for him getting stronger. But if Dallas traded back in and got a guy like like Drake Powell, sign me up. You're not ready for that post draft pod at that point. So he's one of my guys too. I'll just throw these two names out here in the second round. Tyrese Proctor obviously played at Duke with Cooper Flagg. A lot of you guys have left comments stuff about him. I like him. I just think he's a second round guy. Some people have him going undrafted, but I think he's worth taking in the second round. So if Dallas got a second round pick in this draft or traded for that or something, then sure, take Tyrese Proctor. And then Cam Jones from Marquette. I liked him at Marquette. He's a baller. He's a gamer. He's an older prospect too. So coming out of Marquette, I think he's like 23 right now. So I get all the stuff of like, if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, then one of my things with draft stuff is I don't care about age stuff. I think it gets overhyped way too much. This was my thing with Cam Johnson in that draft. I'm like, Cam Johnson's a really good player. And the fact that people would pass up on him because he was 22 at the time or 21, whatever he was just ludicrous to me. And then I think Phoenix took him at like pick 7 and somebody's like, whoa, everybody's freaking out. I'm like, dude, he's legitimately like the best shooter in this draft. So, and he's had a pretty good career. So I'm not a big person when it comes to age and stuff, especially for teams that are in win now. And typically they, getting an 18-year-old or something like that outside of Cooper Flagg, they're probably not going to play too much in the rotation. So there you go. I think Traore and Jase Richardson falls in the draft to where if Dallas tries to capitalize on that, obviously if Demon fell in the draft, I would be all for that, but I don't think he does. It's a Richardson Traore type of mid to late teens if Dallas tried to get in there with a trade to get a first round pick. But if Dallas trades for a pick in the 20s, not as big of a trade package, then it's Walter Clayton Jr., it's Rasheer Fleming, it's Drake Powell. One of those three names for me. If it's a point guard, try to go get Walter Clayton Jr. He's a baller, and he'd be fun to have on this team. So there you go, guys. We'll be back with another episode on Tuesday night. I'm getting my days mixed up at this point. And yeah, we'll see you soon. Peace out. Boo.